I think Fathom's
Is it
recording.
1,000 AIs? Yeah, probably.
When I logged on, it yelled at me that this meeting is being recorded.
Perfect. 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 All right. So let's jump into this thing. So a lot of you guys already know that strength is important. But I think what goes misunderstood is just what is meant by strength. I admittedly always say strength work just because I'm biased towards wanting to be strong. But technically, technically it's not strength work. It's hypertrophy work, which is muscle growth. And the whole idea here is that when you guys, so obviously the old school thought was always like cardio was fat loss, right? I think we all kind of understand that that's not necessarily the case now. Um, Cardio burns more calories per minute than anything else. To give you an idea of this, just to give you guys specifics. So CrossFit, which is it burns pretty much the most. I think sprint like high pace running burns a little bit more, but CrossFit burns around 0.22 calories per kilogram per minute, which I know nobody can do. Like that means absolutely nothing. But that's like a few hundred calories, not yeah, a few hundred calories maybe for like 20, 30 minute workout of like just going all out, balls to the wall, right? To compare that to strength work, strength work, I always say that, but hypertrophy lifting shit burns about point one calories per kilogram per minute. So 0.22 for high intensity shit, zero point 0.1 for strength work. So you are burning a lot less calories per minute doing strength work than you are anything else, which at first sounds like it's bad, right? So it's like, oh shit, I'm burning a lot less calories, and you are absolutely 100% burning less calories. So when people do, an Orange Theory class, or I always, I'm not purposely shitting on Orange Theory, but if you do like an Orange Theory class, because they got the fucking calories up there, so it's a good example. But they burn a lot for an hour, right? Definitely more so than you would be lifting for an hour. But does anybody know why that's not good? Or maybe, well, maybe not good, but why that's not ideal? I don't want to take a step. Caitlin, did you say something, or your thing just light up?
Does it spike your insulin?
Whoa, I didn't see that one coming. That's new. So
Oh,
actually, like, oh, that's actually way more technical than I was going to get. But yeah, it does. All right, so insulin does spike, which is a good thing. Your insulin sensitivity improves. But even simpler than that,
but
like, why would strength work? If we burn less calories doing strength, why would we hell would we do strength instead of like doing cardio or something?
because muscle burns more fat.
Now we're getting somewhere. Kind of. Okay, so this is the thing that like everybody says is when you build muscle, you burn fat, right? And actually, it does ish indirectly. So what happens is 70% of the calories that you burn per day comes from just your resting metabolism, right? It just comes from how many calories your body needs to survive, just laying down without movement at all, right? 70 to 80%. Okay. The only thing that you can change about your BMR, the only thing, literally, that you 80% of the calories that you burn per day comes from this thing. There's only one thing about that thing that you can change. Does everybody get that? That's a pretty big fucking thing, right? That's a lot of things going on here. So you have metabolism, how many calories you burn a day. 80% of that, 80% of the calories that you burn, that you ever will burn every single day, comes from one thing, and that's your base metabolic rate. Okay. There's only one thing about your base metabolic rate that you can influence, and that's muscle. Okay. So if you build muscle through exercise, then you're going to be burning a lot more calories day in and day out forever. Does that make sense? It's kind of like investing in something that has a big ROI, right? So if you put money into something and you constantly get money back every single day from there and on, it's a really good investment, right? That is what muscle is. And so when we look at exercise, you can burn more calories in that moment doing other shit, but you won't get the advantage of building muscle. Does that all make sense? Okay. Now, when you're cutting and you're losing weight, your body wants to get rid of muscle for exactly that reason. Okay. So this should make a lot of sense. If what I just said made sense, then it should also make sense why your body wants to get rid of muscle. If you're losing weight the most expensive thing about you is your muscle mass, right? Your base metabolic rate. Your body can't just, magically get rid of bone or, shrink your heart and organs and shit, right? It can't do that. The only thing it can do to influence your base metabolic rate is drop muscle. It's the exact same thing we're doing the opposite way, right? So if you're not getting enough calories in and your body knows that, it wants to survive. It wants to be able to survive on less calories. The only way it can do that is by getting your ass to stop moving, which it tries to do, right? It slows down your functions a little bit. And if that doesn't work, it throws out the big guns, which is to get rid of muscle. If it gets muscle off your body, you cost a lot less. You're cheap. You're really cheap if you don't have any muscle. Muscle's fucking expensive. So your body does not want to invest in that. And it wants to take the money from it when it's getting broke. Does that all make sense? Okay, so when we look at muscle growth, I'm going to get to the volume thing in a second, I promise. But when we look at muscle growth, or when we look at exercise, the entire point of doing exercise is to grow muscle. Does everybody understand that? How important that is with all the shit that I just said? Okay. Now, just because you're doing squats and dumbbell curls and all this other strength stuff doesn't mean you're building muscle. Does everybody get that? The movement is not the thing that creates the muscle. The movement is a vehicle to the thing that creates muscle. Is everybody with me so far? Does that all make sense? Okay. So we understand cardio sucks. No, I'm kidding. We understand we want to do strength stuff, right? We understand that the body's trying to lose muscle. So we need to try to gain muscle, right? And this is just if you're cutting. If you're in a lean bulk and you're literally trying to gain muscle, then obviously we're trying to gain muscle. But even if you're cutting, you want to try to gain muscle because that competes against your body trying to lose it. Everybody with me so far? Yes to the muscles? Okay, cool. So now we got that all out of the way. We understand that we want to lift, right? We understand that we want to gain muscle. We understand that the calories that we're burning in the moment doesn't really mean anything. What does is how we influence muscle mass. Now, doing strength work or doing lifts or exercises does not mean that you're going to build muscle, okay? And this is where volume and growth come in, okay? I'm going to share this and I'll be done in 15 minutes. Watch. Promise. Lindsay, you count me on that. I'm taking over the screen, so I'm not gonna be able to see shit anymore. So you keep me posted like every fucking
I'm setting a timer.
Okay. So we understand all that stuff so far, right? We need to work out. We understand that we need to do that, and we need to specifically try to build muscle. And now you're gonna understand what that means. Okay. So there's the biggest thing that we need to do is focus on volume and growth. Okay. Volume is the number one driver of muscle growth. It's not about going heavy. It's not about even the movements that you do. You could squat and never gain muscle. Okay. It's not about how hard it feels. None of that shit matters. The only thing that really matters is volume. Okay. Now, more necessarily doesn't mean it's better. So when I say it's all about volume, I don't mean do as many sets as you possibly can forever, right? Because that also may not actually influence muscle. There is a point where this becomes maximal, and it depends on where your goals are. Okay. And there's a couple little terms here that we're going to throw out, which I think will help. So we just want to look at this graph. Okay. I'll go back and forth between these two slides. So maintenance volume is the first bracket. Okay. So when we talk about volume, volume is the thing that influences muscle growth. We understand why muscle growth is so important. Our body wants to lose it. We don't. Right. So we've got to focus on trying to increase muscle. If you're purposely in a lean bulk and trying to increase muscle, then obviously this is important. So there's a couple different brackets here. The minimum effective volume or maintenance volume, maintenance volume is the first bracket. This is literally the least amount of volume that any human being should ever do, in my opinion, period. Okay. This is just to maintain the muscle that you have. Okay. We're going to get to the actual sets of this in a second. Then, so that's the lowest volume that any human should be doing. Okay. Then we have minimum effective volume. Okay. This is the least amount of volume, the lowest amount of volume that can still possibly increase muscle. Okay. So now we're kind of on the verge of maybe increasing muscle. This is the least amount that we can do it with. Cool. So maintenance volume is the least amount to keep the muscle you have. Minimum effective volume is the least amount to get some increase of muscle. Everybody with me so far? So that's this guy. Then we have the maximal effective volume. Okay, now we're getting to the top of the curve here. So this is how much sets can we do to maximally increase muscle. Okay. Then we have the maximal recovery volume. Okay, this is just for people who want to go to the moon and go until the wheels come off. Okay, this is where you figure out how much volume you could possibly take before you actually start regressing. So now you can't build muscle because your body's so goddamn shot because you're doing too much volume. Okay, does everybody kind of get that so far? All right, now we're gonna get to the actual sets. So maintenance volume. This is how many sets per muscle group per week you should be doing. This is how we factor this. So when all this sounds really complicated, but it boils down to this, okay? Again, to review, working out, you're not burning all that many calories in general. What we're trying to do is invest in muscle. Because if we can build muscle, you're going to burn more calories for the rest of your life just sleeping, right? It's a great investment. When you're cutting, your body wants to lose muscle. So at the very least, you need to do maintenance volume to maintain the muscle that you have while you're cutting so that the weight you're losing is fat. Cool. That is maintenance volume. Okay. This is 6 to 8 sets per muscle group per week. If you are a useful human being, you should be doing this. If you want to be a useful human being, you may not be useful currently, but you could be if you do 6 to 8 sets per muscle group per week. All right. So nice. Now this is major muscle groups, right? I'm gonna, don't worry about exactly doing 6 sets for your calves, your toes, your ankles, and everything. Just focus on, the broad picture. 6 to 8 sets per muscle group per week. All right. That's just to maintain the muscle you have. Then we crank that up. Minimum effective volume, 8 to 10. So this is where you want to start building muscle. All right. You're probably never going to grow muscle unless you're at least doing 8 to 10 sets per muscle group per week. Okay. If you're wondering what the hell that even means, make this simple. Let's say you do 2 strength days a week and you do full body. So you hit the full body every day and you do 5 sets of shit, right? So let's say chest, 10 sets of pecs per week would look like 2 different days. Maybe I do 5 sets of bench press one day and I do 5 sets of cable flies the other day. That would be 10 sets for my chest for the week, right? And then you use that idea for all the sets, all the muscle groups, okay? So that's minimum effective volume. Then maximal effective volume, okay? How many sets can I do to maximally influence muscle? This is growth. This is 12 to 18 sets per muscle group per week, okay? That is what, 4 days of 4, 5, it's a weird number, 18, somewhere in there. 4 days of
3
5.
days of 4 sets.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Tim. You just throw that out anytime I need help. What's going on here? So 12 to 18 sets per muscle group per week. This is the build. Okay, so this is where most people should be if they're trying to actually increase muscle. So if you're in a lean bulk or reverse diet, this is where you're living. All right. Then there's a maximal recoverable volume. Okay, so this is how much can I possibly do and still recover from. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to keep progressing. This is where this is where bodybuilders, athletes, this is where they're living. Okay, just as a reference point. So we have 6 to 8 per muscle group per week is just to keep what you got. 8 to 10 is to start growing what you got. This is to actually grow what you have purposely, and this is going till the wheels come off. All right. Now, that brings us to the total working sets per week. Okay. So if you just do the math of how many sets per muscle group per week you're doing, and then the total amount of sets per week looks like this. Okay. So the maintenance volume, again, just to maintain what you got, about 40 to 80. All right. The minimum effective volume, somewhere between 80 and 120. Max 120 to 180, and then 180 plus. Okay. This is across your whole body. It's a decent amount. All right. And remember that if you're doing, group classes, right, then you're doing some of this in there. So if you're doing group classes, I'm not saying that you have to do 40 to 80 sets to maintain your muscle outside of the classes. I'm saying you're already doing some volume in the classes, but if it's not enough, if you add up all the volume that you're doing, and you have to make sure it's good volume that you're actually, going to failure and shit, then you have to add a strength day or two to make up the difference. Let's say you look at your classes you go 3 to 4 classes a week and you got, you add up all your sets and you're somewhere around 30 sets. Then if you add one day where you just do 10 sets of work, you're at least going to maintain volume. Does that make sense? So this doesn't have to be all by itself. Now.
Can I stop you really quick?
Yeah.
You see if anyone's in the waiting room.
Oh shit. Oh yeah, got some people in here.
Okay.
Stragglers. We gotta figure out a way to do that shit. All right, so every muscle
Can
gets
I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Can I ask quick, because I'm
Sure.
actually going to dump
Hey, you
off
gonna
at
go eat?
8:30.
Make sure.
What is the body going to get rid of first, fat or muscle?
It's a great question. It depends on how much stimulus you are putting in the body to grow. So, like, if you have enough protein, which is the building blocks for muscle, and you have enough stimulus for the muscle to try to grow, it's going to compete against trying to lose it, and it's going to win, depending on the volume.
That's
So,
what I
like,
thought.
it will be fat. So we can get people like even for me, if I'm in single digit % body fat, I can still solely lose fat and not muscle if I'm doing enough volume.
Okay.
But I will say, as a default, it's muscle. Once you cross a certain threshold. So for men, once you get closer to once you get to around 15 to like 18% body fat, I would say. Women like 25 plus. That's where your body starts to look at muscle. Like, let's get rid of some of this shit over here. We're running out of fat. So it does depend on your body fat percent. But yeah, I would say as a general rule, it will always try to. It will lose fat up until you get pretty lean, and then it will lose muscle. It shifts pretty quick. And again, if you just understand what the body is seeing from that, it's like, oh shit, we have plenty of fat stores. Okay, we can just keep using that. We got plenty of energy. And then that starts to run out. It's like, oh shit, like our stores are getting kind of low. It's like if you had like a basement filled for like, an Armageddon basement, right? You had a bunch of food in there and you had enough food to last like 3 years. And you had people in your house that like just kept going down there because you had good snacks and they kept eating shit. At first, you wouldn't really care. It's like, all right, I got plenty of shit down there, right? And eventually it's like, all right, you guys are eating some shit. Like, eat the shit in the kitchen now. That's basically what your body does. It's a really fucking weird example, but hopefully that helps.
So the key is making sure you got enough protein in you.
Protein and strength work. This volume right here.
Strength work.
Yeah, because if you're not doing this, you won't gain it even with the protein.
Right.
And then as you get leaner and leaner, the higher end of that is key. Possibly even going into this.
So when you're saying strength work, are you talking heavier or are you talking rep wise? Like when I'm doing the 20 reps, or do I want to do 5 reps at massive weight?
It's not necessarily. That's a good question. So it's not necessarily about the intensity of it, more so that it's going to failure. So when I say a set,
okay.
So when I'm saying 6 to 8 sets per muscle group per week, that means I'll just use chest as an example. That means I did at least 6 sets of my chest going to failure. So whether that was bench press at 20 reps or bench press at 5 reps, there's some differences to them, but the general principle is at least I'm doing it to failure.
Got it. Totally got it.
Good question, though. Really good question. So here's a little bit of a kicker. Okay, when I put people's strength plans together, it's not as simple as I keep saying sets per muscle group per week, right? But it's not as simple as one exercise hits just one muscle. Right? We all know that, right? If we do an exercise, it could be hitting more than one muscle. There is a science to this. Okay. When I do this, so I've been talking sets per muscle group per week. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do a isolated exercise for that muscle for it to count. Okay. If I do a bench press, for instance, it's actually using 100%. It's going to recruit 100% of the pec, but it's also going to recruit 50% of the tricep and 50% of the front delt. So when I calculate a bench press, I'm actually calculating +1 for chest, plus 0.5 for tricep and delt. Right? So that adds up, because if I did bench press 4 times, you just got 2 for front delt and 2 for tricep. Does that make sense? So volume is still key, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, and there's the math, right? So if I do 4 sets of bench, 4 chest, 2 tricep, 2 delt. Okay. So again, when we're talking 6 to 8 sets per muscle group per week for absolute bottom maintenance value or maintenance work, you could do the bigger complex movements and get more out of it. Okay. So if you don't have a lot of time and you're only doing, let's say, 1 strength session per week, it's a good move to do compound lifts because you can get a lot more out of it. All right. So what zone you should be in depends on where you're at right now and what your goals are. Okay. If you're cutting, then you're looking at maintenance volume to maximum effective volume. Okay. So right here, maintenance volume or minimum effective volume. Okay. These is where you want to be if you're cutting. And then if you're lean bulking, you want to be here in one of these. And then if you want to push the pace until the walls come off or the wheels come off, you're over here. Okay. So cutting, maintenance, the minimum effective volume, lean bulk, somewhere in the middle. Okay. And then performance, high physique. This is where you just go max. All right. Here's an example of somebody who is doing, this is a made up name. Don't worry. So this is somebody who's doing minimum effective volume. Okay. So just as an example, this person maybe wants to prioritize shoulders. Obviously, I would always prioritize shoulders. So this person's doing 12 shoulders and glutes, chest, glutes, quads, chest, 8, and then 6 everywhere else. And boom, total of 60 sets. Okay. This could be, who knows, maybe this person did, a couple of workouts that week in a group class that hit a lot of shoulders. So it was more and everything else was a little bit less. Okay. So the total was 60. But either way, that is hitting the minimum effective volume. So this person's at least trying to keep what they got. Okay. A building version of that, this would be more of like a lean bulk, looks a lot different. So this would be 110. So just an example, a visual example of what the difference could be. Now we're hitting 16 sets and to 14. So minimum effective, you're hitting 12 to 4, right? 12 sets for the high end, 4 for the bottom muscle groups. Here we're at 16 down to 10. Big difference, okay? That's double the weekly volume. And then this is me. So just to give you an example, this is what I do. So I do over 200 sets per week, over 42 sets of shoulders. Okay. Love those guys. All right. But this is a big difference. Okay. So this versus that is wildly different. This is why even at 9% body fat, I can lose weight and have it just be fat and not muscle, because my muscle is constantly trying to grow, which is going to compete against the body's want to cut. Right. Okay. So if you had one person that went through a life cycle, so they cut first, so they stripped their fat off, then they went through the lean bulk and they tried to gain muscle, and then they maximally tried to gain muscle or competed in a sport, this would be the evolution that person goes through. They would start in the cutting phase somewhere around 55 sets, just enough to maintain muscle as they're stripping away the fat. Being cautious with protein, being cautious with how much weight they're losing every week, all the stuff that we tell you guys to do, but just having the buffer of that 55 sets to maintain the muscle. Okay. Then that same person, once they go into a lean bulk, would probably double their volume. Now they're purposely trying to increase in muscle. Okay. This is where you see a big jump in volume. So if you guys go from cutting to a lean bulk, it is a different world. Okay. The strength work and the workouts that you're doing are completely different. The movements may look the same. Okay. This person was squatting in both. They were probably doing bench press in both. Okay. On paper, you may look at it and be like, wow, that looks kind of the same, but it is not even on the same planet. Does that make sense? The volume is what's making the difference. And then that same person can take it to the edge by going where I am, basically until the wheels come off. All right. Now, here's what's really cool. Our app that we're coming out with, it's actually already out. We have people beta testing it now. We got a small group. Some of you guys are in here. Does all of this for you. So when I program people's strength work, okay, we're going to be creating this app. You're going to have access to this app. Probably in a couple of weeks, we're going to give it to everybody. We're just getting some of the bugs out. But this is going to do all that stuff for you. It's going to automatically program the amount of sets per muscle group per week, bias towards where you want the bias to, with the equipment that you have available, whether you're doing it at a CrossFit gym after class, whether you're doing it at a regular gym, whether you're doing it in your basement, whatever equipment you have, we're still going to make it work based on whatever it is, okay? And we're going to make sure that we're hitting that volume and we're increasing it as you go into a different phase. More than that, we're actually going to increase we're going to pinpoint how many reps you should be doing every single set and actually progressing that set to set, which is really cool. So hopefully that all makes sense on how much resource. No, did I do it? 8:29. Let's fucking go. I can't get out of the screen. Here we go. So hopefully that makes sense. we have, to summarize this, we have exercise, right? You can do a bunch of cardio and burn calories, but you'll probably influence muscle loss. Your body already wants to lose muscle the leaner and leaner that you get. Cardio is even more of a stimulus for your body to lose muscle. Okay. Now, if you do strength work, yes, you're going to burn less calories in that session, but what you will do is maintain, if not increase, the muscle that you have, which is your ticket to burning more calories every single day from then on. Okay. There is a dose that is required for the stimulus that you're trying to get. All right. If you're just trying to maintain the muscle that you have, you need to be getting somewhere in that 40 to 80 set range. Okay. Otherwise, you will not maintain muscle. Okay. Make that clear. If you're losing weight and you're not getting 40 to 80 sets, at least 40-ish, you probably will be losing muscle as you're losing weight. All right. That's the maintenance volume. Then, if you want to start increasing muscle, this is where you shift up. All right. And if you're in a lean bulk and you're rocking it, this is where you want to go. Maybe over here. Who knows? Okay. But exercise, volume, muscle up, everybody's happy. Then you're able to do a reverse diet. You're able to rack up those calories and you're able to actually consume high amounts of calories. And if anything, just gain muscle instead of gaining fat, which is the key to being able to eat a lot of shit and have abs, which is fun. Boom. I'm pretty impressed. I don't know if anybody else is, but all right. So let's go over. So that being said, if you guys want to leave, you can. But I mean, you could leave anytime. It's not like I'm going to do anything. But I'm just saying that the main part of it is over, so I won't be hurt. I see you guys just disappear. Let's go next. All right. So let's see what questions we got. Anything sets this? Oh, it's Laura. So this is a good question. Oh, you answered. I answered it. Okay. Well, I'll restate that just in case. So when I say sets, yeah, just to clarify this, because I think Tim, you brought this up before too. Sets and reps is different, right? So when I say sets per muscle group per week, I mean you did like a set of bench press and you went to failure. Now, if your intensity is high, so you're using a high weight, going to failure is going to be low reps. But if your intensity is low and you're going to failure, it's going to be really high reps. There is a range, okay? If you're not doing at least 5 reps, you're probably not going to grow. So if I do 1 rep maxes, I'm not going to grow. It's not enough stimulus for the muscle to grow. Yeah, no, I'll get strong. I'll get really strong, but I won't grow the muscle, okay? So it is different. Likewise, if you go really high in reps, like 30, 40 plus, you're also probably not going to grow. It's just not enough friction. It's not enough, contraction for the muscle, even if it goes to failure. So it's really, really hard. So there is, a range that works, but it's more so just going to failure that matters. Somewhere between 5 and 20 is going to grow if the volume is right. But that's really good one.
So it's better off. And I'm sorry to take up other people's time.
No, man, keep asking. I love it.
On my, I don't want to call them light days, but on my days when I'm doing lower reps, I am maximizing the amount of weight I can put on my bench press, my legs, whatever I can do. But the more I put, I worry that my form is off as far as weight goes. I'm pushing with my shoulders instead of my chest. Mm-hmm. So there's a fine line of, okay, do I drop the weight and do more sets? Do I, go that direction?
Yeah, it's a really good question because there's a couple of things intertwined there, right? It's like, number one, there's the technique itself or the form itself. If that gets eroded too much, then obviously you could put stress where you don't want it. That's where injuries could happen, blah, blah, blah. So that's like one side of it. The other side that people less understand is what happens to range of motion. And to me, this is actually the most important thing. When you go up higher and higher in weights, you want to make damn sure that the range of motion does not change because that is the full stretch of the muscle. So like, for instance, you start doing really heavy squats and you start by going all the way down, all the way up. But then all of a sudden, like 6 weeks later, if you take a video of yourself from the side compared to where you started and you're not going all the way down anymore, then like that can't happen. You need to make sure the range of motion is always exactly the same because if it's not, then you're not going to grow even if you go to failure, because you're not actually even putting the muscle through a full stretch, So you have like the injury thing, and then you have the range of motion thing. And then you also have what muscle you're using, which kind of goes into form. But like if you start getting really weak, so quick example and story, they used to do standing strict press in the Olympics, which is where you literally like, standing strict press. I'm standing, I just lift it up, right? They banned it because I shit you not, they banned it because people were doing standing bench presses. So they would stand, but they would go all the way back and then actually do a bench press. And so the point was that they were using larger muscle groups like their chest to help get the weight up. That's why they were actually able to lift a lot heavier. So the point is like you could start using other muscle groups that you shouldn't, but that's less of a problem than you think, because we're already counting those other muscle groups from the get-go. So like they're already getting, 0.5 of a point or something. So it's not like even if you're doing a standing strict press that dramatic, you're still 100% recruiting your shoulder. So you're still getting the +1 for your shoulder. It's probably that you're also getting a +1 for your chest because you're using both. But so that's less important. And they've shown this in research studies too, that the muscle that you think you're using isn't always what you're actually using. What's most important is always the range of motion. If you do a full ass to grass squat, it doesn't matter where you feel it, your quad is getting maximally recruited. So like that's the biggest, most important thing to focus on is range of motion by far. Other than
Gotcha. Keeping it stretched. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, really good question though. Danielle, what are the main muscle groups to focus on? So yeah, good question. That's definitely relative to the person, but I would say, back you could separate twice, like lower, upper, and then I would say chest, shoulders, and then front and back of your legs is probably the simplest you can make it. So like quads, hamstrings, and butt, you could usually work at the same time. And then chest, shoulders, and back. I'd say I would hit those all the time. So example of what that means, I would say front squat or any squat, and then maybe a lat pull down, and then a strict press or like lateral flies, Jesus. And then like hip thrust, that'll hit hamstrings and glute. And did I do something for chest? Bench? I don't know if I did. But that would be like an example. So I would always look at it like, okay, what am I doing for shoulders, chest, back, quad, hamstring, and glute? If you do at least those, you're getting just about everything. And then a lot of the little guys are at least touched in those. For instance, your biceps are going to be used when you do a lat pull down. Your triceps are going to be used when you do a press. So like all the other little things, your calves are going to be used when you squat. So if you're doing those things, like you're going to at least hit the other guys. But if you can't focus on hitting your quads and your calves and not squat or something. If that makes sense. So what else? Mike, that's a good question. All right. Yeah. So I want everybody to pay attention to this one, because this one's important. So he asks, is it good to keep doing the same movements each week, or should you be switching the movements? So this is really, really, really good question. And I want to be really, really, really clear with this. It is always, always, always best to do the exact same movement as much as possible. To give you guys an idea of how extreme how extreme I mean that, I literally, when I was going to Worlds in strongman, which by the way, Worlds at strongman, so the entire point was to be strong and gain as much muscle as possible, right? When I was doing that at the top stage, the best guys in the world, I literally did the exact same movements for over 2 years straight. Literally the exact same day. Like front squat, ring pull-ups, lat pull down, chest fly. Exactly the same fucking thing for 2 years straight. So most people try to change it every 6 to 8 weeks, but that's just a boredom and an ego thing. If you were looking to performance-wise increase the most muscle possible, you would always want to do the exact same movement as long as possible, unless you absolutely had to change it. But even if you changed it, I would only change a small thing about it. So I'll give you a really easy example. If you do barbell bench and it just stalls, like you just cannot progress in reps or weight, then first you would try to change something about that by like decreasing reps. So let's say your rep target was 7 and you keep going, you cannot get 7. I would decrease the rep target to like 5, but increase the sets. So you're still getting overall good volume, but you're able to keep progressing, right? Then that dies and you like cannot fucking budget. Well, then what you could do is you could add bands to it or chains to it and lighten the load. And now the way that the weight is distributed is different, even though you're doing the exact same movement. And now you can keep progressing that way, right? And then absolute worst case scenario of that die, which by the way, this should be like a year at this point. But like if that stopped, then maybe you could do dumbbell bench instead. But it's still going to be very, 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 very similar. So like, and the reason for that is because your brain gets really good at doing specific movements. And so if you constantly change the movement, you're getting like a false positive because you're able to keep progressing week to week, but you're only progressing because your brain is getting better at doing it. You're not progressing because you're actually getting stronger or building muscle tissue. And so you want to get to the point where you're literally only progressing because you're increasing muscle. And so to give you guys an example, when I was saying before, what real progression looks like is when I was doing the 2 years of following the exact same thing, I would go like my front squat, I would maybe go up by like, I'm not exaggerating, I would go up by maybe a total of 2 pounds on the bar, like 1 pound on each side, like every 2 weeks tops, like maybe if I was lucky. Like that's what progression actually looks like. Like what people are used to is adding like 5 or 10 pounds every week. It's just because, you know, you're just weak at that movement and your brain doesn't know how to do it yet. You can't progress that much if your muscle is actually the one that's driving the growth. So like you want to get to the point where that actually happens. And that's ironically the point where most people switch, right? It's like when people can't really progress that much, then they switch the movement, which is exactly the wrong time because that's when you're actually getting the most out of the movement, but people get bored. But yeah, that's a really good question. Hopefully that makes sense. What else we got? These are good questions. Anything else? Anything you want to add, Linz?
Let's go next.
Yeah, let's go. Cool. All right, so we'll so just keep in mind the most important things, guys, is that you got to know, you got to just be aware of what we're trying to do when you go in the gym, right? We know that we're not burning as many calories as you would if you were just running for an hour, but that's not the point, right? We're trying to influence what we're doing to muscle, and that takes a very specific approach. And volume is the volume knob on how much results you're getting out of the exercise when it comes to strength work, right? And most people don't realize how much volume they need. And when I say volume, those sets are always taken to failure. Okay, so that's a given. Like you have to go to failure, otherwise your volume doesn't count. So like if you did 5 sets of squats, but you didn't go to failure, it doesn't count. You have to go to failure. This is why arbitrary reps and sets make 0 sense. So like never do a 5x5 front squat because it just makes absolutely no sense because you're not going to failure, right? So you should be using a weight that you're going to failure, and then those sets will count. And then at least 6 sets per muscle group per week for everybody, no matter what. And then from there, you can increase as the goals get a little bit more extreme or as you get leaner. And then you get jacked and strong and you eat a bunch of shit and life is great. Good stuff. All right. I think that's good, man. All right, cool. All right, that's it, guys. Let's go next. Get this shit.
All right, good one, Devin. Thank you.
Later, guys. Thank you all.
Bye,
I appreciate you guys.
Bye.
Thanks. Peace.